Excellent. Well, I'd say we might as well get this show on the road here then and kick things off. So my name is Zack Steven. I'm a co-founder and CEO at Cloudburst, SBC. We're team in town that partners with high-performing and high-potential entrepreneurs to get started, to build companies, launch and scale through technology, custom apps, and software. And partnered today with Alex, if you want to just give a quick introduction as well to talk no-code.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So I'm Alex. Everybody kind of calls me A-Rod in the tech community. I'm a partner and co-founder of Graveti, and we're excited to be partnering with Cloudburst for this no-code panel, kind of talk about it, show you some insights and some projects we've been doing. Outside of that, my main kind of startup right now is Electrician Path, which is a marketplace for hiring electricians and solar installers. And I'm also a partner in my family's roofing and construction business, which we use a lot of no-code internal tools as well.
Awesome. So yeah, we're excited to have this conversation, share the things that we've been learning and working on, and kind of find out who else in the Twin Cities is thinking about those things. So here's a look at the agenda for the session today. We're going to do an introduction to no code at a pretty high level, and Alex is going to talk through some overviews of different tools and kind of what's going on with no code. Then we wanted to focus some real time on some demos of projects that we've built. George Floyd Mural App, Alex's Electrician Path, shared success agreement that Cloudburst that generates documents and things automatically using no code. And then we're excited to launch and share with you nocode.mn, a new online community that we're putting together. And then there should be good time for Q&A. So excited to have you here, and certainly welcome your questions and feedback as we go. So let's jump into it.
So Zach, so I'll just kind of, you're sharing the screen, so I'll just read it off that and go from there. But yeah, just to kind of give everybody an introduction to kind of no code and even low code. No code has been around kind of since the early internet days. Dreamweaver was really kind of one of the first people to build what you see is what you get website builder, which has then evolved to things like Squarespace, Weebly, Webflow. And over time, all these tools kind of started getting better. Excel and Sheets are also in a way no code tools. They allow a lot of these formulas to kind of get involved. But really, I think the reason no code has gotten so hot these days in tech and the startup world is it kind of, caught wave of like the VC tech Twitter world. And that's kind of when things really blow up. And I think a part of that is one, because as technology gets better over time, so do kind of the tools we have, obviously. So one of those are kind of no code. No code has kind of always lagged with functionality. There was a huge learning curve. People really struggled to kind of learn them. There wasn't also a lot of flexibility or power. The old days, what you see is what you get. Website builders are kind of very minimum. You kind of had static pages. There wasn't really anything dynamic. You didn't have a whole lot of content management, and you really didn't have anything to deal with the kind of programming functionality. But today you kind of have a whole bunch of tools that we'll get into, with some of the big ones being like Airtable, which is really kind of just like an Google Sheets on steroids. You have Bubble, which is really like a back end. You could pretty much build a lot of things with Bubble, from internal tools to marketplaces to online stores to directories, you name it. Then you have Webflow, which is, in my opinion, kind of like, WordPress 2.0. It's much better. It gives you much more flexibility over designing. You can build like a whole content management system with it. You can have a whole blog. And companies like Webflow, Bubble, or Airtable, kind of when, where the VC money goes, that's kind of where a lot of the attention goes, for better or for worse. And those companies in the last years have each raised, multiple millions of dollars, from top VC firms like Excel, Sequoia, etc. So yeah, so it's pretty cool just to kind of know what's going on with that. And then if Zach, you want to go to the next slide and kind of, touch on some of these tools as well.
Yeah, sounds good. And I would just chime in here too. Kind of, there's a lot of gray areas around what is no code, because really it is code at the core. Low code, there's a lot of different terminology, but really I think what's exciting for me and Alec really as pretty much non-technical founders who classically have needed to find developers or hire people or just simply not get stuff built. These tools are a lot more user-friendly and sophisticated, and they also play nice together, especially for the very earliest stages of development. And we'll show you the kinds of things that you could just build and start getting in front of people. Because really when it comes down to it, unless you're just building a passion project or something just for fun, you need to get something out there into people's hands to get feedback on. And so often we see people get hung up on, I need to do all of this prototyping and raise money and just to see if I even have an idea. And so we're just going to show you some things and some tools where you can try to piece together a really elegant solution for the problem that you're trying to solve before you take all the time and energy to invest in a more custom solution. And as we'll show, there's quite the world of possibilities, and they all kind of work together, which is also new. So here's a few.
So, these are just a few of many tools. I think I got this from Ryan Hoover. For those who don't know who he is, he's the co-founder of Product Hunt, which got acquired by Angels List. And now he has a weekend fund, but he wrote a very good blog post I think is worth checking out about the rise of no-code. And I kind of just took this image from it because I would say these are kind of some of the leaders in it. And kind of going back to what Zach said, the thing I really like about no-code is really that potential it unlocks, right? So you have like Shopify, which I would say is one of the biggest, not the biggest player for kind of e-commerce stores. So now instead of kind of having to build a custom landing page, having a back-end fulfillment system, Shopify and like other no-code, low-codes, they really have kind of these plug-and-plays where you can kind of, in a way, not have to hire a full team and take weeks to ship something. You can kind of just throw something up on Shopify. Shopify, you could probably have something up and running within 10 minutes, and you can be shipping to your customers. Airtable, as I mentioned, is kind of one of my favorite tools. Airtable is like an Excel spreadsheet that has really gotten a lot of attention. We personally use it a lot for internal tools. So with the Electrician Path, we use it as a customizable CRM. We also use it as an internal tool for kind of tracking guests or electricians that we reach out to, customer development. In the family roofing business, that's pretty much our main CRM system, just because of how much customization there's involved with our roofing, siding, gutters, etc. Retool is a pretty new tool that's getting a lot of attention. That's really good for like internal tools. So for example, if you want to like build like follow-up lead gen systems, Webflow, I love Webflow and Bubbles. That's probably my favorite no-code stack. That's what we actually use at Electrician Path. Like I said, Webflow is pretty much like a WordPress, but it gives you much more flexibility. It gives you kind of that, it can really unlock that designer in you. And if you're a designer, then you can really thrive with it. Thunkable is essentially like a mobile iPad Android building application, so people can build kind of like fun games. You can build like directories, etc. I've played around with that a little bit. It's a pretty cool app. It has a learning curve, but it's very cool. And then you also have kind of smaller ones like Strikingly is probably one of my favorites for small simple websites, 1 and 2 page websites. You have stuff like Substack, which I'm sure everybody has seen. Everybody's launching a newsletter these days. But stuff like that just makes it so simple to really get something up and running. And then just to answer a question really quick from the audience from Jacob Beasley, I would say the biggest difference between no code and low code is low code tools are essentially things that require very minimum coding. They kind of has a little bit more customization, so anybody can kind of get up and running with knowing a little bit about the basics of programming, or going through kind of like their tutorials or their directory, etc. And no code is really kind of just plug and play. So with no code, for example, with Bubble, you essentially kind of design your layout like you would any website, and then Bubble has a backend, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit. But Bubble has a backend that you essentially kind of just do a bunch of if this, if that. It's really just a bunch of logic that kind of pieces it together, and it involves no code at all, which is essentially why it's called no code. But yeah, Zach, I'll let you kind of jump in here if you want to go over any of these tools or add any comments.
I would say too, really, one of the nice things about tools, especially like Webflow or some of these other ones, is that you can start with really not writing any code and pull together the building blocks to build what you're after. But then to the extent that you want to use your own customization of JavaScript or HTML front-end design elements, or potentially I think low-code stuff would get into connecting with third-party APIs or other data sources where those connections haven't been so readily established and you want to be able to get access. But most of what you're doing in terms of the 80%, say, classically, of core functionality of what it looks and feels like and how it works for user and content management is just kind of out of the box. And then you're trying to do a few kind of special things. But that is kind of one of the challenges of this space. It's kind of hot right now, but it's also, in a lot of respects, it's not that new. And it certainly has some of its, but in the space of empowering people with ideas to validate them and be able to start building, I think that's where it's really exciting. And yeah, there's no shortage of tools really, and it's just a matter of figuring out how they fit together. So next slide.
So kind of going back to what Zach said, you know, if you look at kind of the last bulletin point, like no code doesn't replace code. You know, there's been a lot of debates between people like, you know, no code can't replace coding. And I completely agree with that, because at the end of the day, no code tools are built by programmers, engineers. So there's always going to be that demand for them. And as Zach said, there is limitations with no code. But as the no code space gets better, it does allow you to kind of scale more. And at the end of the day, the thing I really love about no code is I myself I'm not a technical co-founder. I know very little code. And no code really allows everyone to be a maker. And for all those who are really entrepreneurial, you know, once you kind of start dabbling with no code, you kind of start to realize why programmers are always building kind of their own side projects, because it's just really fun, the stuff you can build. You know, I've built small personal projects, you know, where you can even just find a local, you know, Latino restaurant here in the Twin Cities with apps like Glide, which, you know, Zach will get into, you know, which really just allows you to kind of turn a spreadsheet into a basic mobile app. And yeah, you know, with no code, like I said, you don't have to be a technical co-founder. And if you do know how to program, that's even that much better, because a lot of these no code tools also have that kind of customization. Like with Webflow, you can go in, you can customize the code. I believe Bubble does as well with JavaScript. And yeah, I think the biggest thing with no code is just the potential it unlocks. It allows you to really validate sooner, make some quick cash. So instead of taking 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to build an MVP or prototype, or even worse, let's say you're trying to recruit a co-founder. You know, I know just from, you know, people who have tried finding a co-founder and my own personal experience, it's very hard to find a technical co-founder. You know, it's kind of like dating in a way. You know, you don't really want to rush it. Even when you do rush it, it's usually not as great as you think it will be. So, you know, no code will really help you validate that and kind of get something to the market sooner and get feedback, get that customer development, hopefully make some cash. And when you do that too, that's going to be more impressive if you do end up, you know, trying to find a technical co-founder. If I was to go like, hey, Zach, I have this app, you know, it's making $2K a month. We have some limitations. Here's kind of what's going on. You know, that's probably going to excite an engineer a lot more than saying, oh, I got this new cool app that's going to change the world. You know, I haven't really talked to any customers. We don't got $0, but, you know, trust me. So, you know, that's just really the thing I love about no code. And I think no code too, and you're starting to see it with some people, like if you join certain communities like MakerPad, Indie Hackers, people are building, you know, very great businesses with no code, especially with like those niche and lifestyle businesses. You know, like maybe you have like a niche job board, a niche marketplace, maybe an e-commerce store, maybe you have like a content blog, Substack, you know, in a way, you know, it's considered a no code too. And, you know, there's writers on there who are making, you know, 10, 100K a month on subscriptions. And one of the things too that I really love about no code is I think it could enable service-based businesses. It can make them better. And one example of this is, you know, with our roofing business, at the end of the day, we're still a traditional local roofing contractor, but we try to provide as great of an experience as we can to customers, or in a way they kind of think we're like a roofing tech startup marketplace. But at the end of the day, you know, we're just a regular roofing contractor that, you know, just provides exceptional quality. And yeah, going back to Zach's point, I think no code is, you know, there's still a lot of limitations. It's still in the early days, even though it's gotten so mainstream, but it's just going to unlock a new wave of potential and makers. And that to me is really exciting. I think you're going to see a lot of people really build cool stuff with this. And, you know, I think you're going to start seeing more people say, you know, I started off with a no code solution. We got to a few $100,000 in revenue. And then we brought in an engineer and really scaled it, or they just kept it like that. But yeah, I'll let Zach kind of chime in on this as well.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm excited about it too. Even though Cloudburst is a product development company, software development company, I'm a non-technical founder, and I've kind of been down this road myself around wanting to build things, kind of having that creative impulse. And I think what's exciting here is that it does lower the barriers to be able to get started. And honestly, even when at Cloudburst we're talking about working with entrepreneurs, one of the key indicators is whether you're trying to recruit a technical co-founder or raise investment or whatnot, is like, well, how far have you gone with what you can do? And no, you can't do it all yourself, but these no-code tools really enable you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, to push it that much further and show, hey, here's what I've done, here's what I've learned. And like Alex said, hey, I've hit this limitation where I can't have sign in only on some pages to either sign in on all pages or no pages, or I can't split payments in the way that I want. I need some help now. It's exciting. Traction is what's exciting. Getting things into people's hands. It's scary, but it's also exciting.
And Zach, would you mind kind of just, I think that's really, because you have a development shop. So would you mind kind of just sharing kind of, besides the potential to unlock, kind of, ways that you're leveraging no code within Cloudburst? I think Cloudburst is really unique in the fact that, which, I won't take away from your slide at the end, but you do things a lot differently, which I think really gives you a competitive advantage, especially with kind of iterating quick ideas.
Well, thanks. I mean, our aim is to help people get started and just get going, just to find out if there is something. And if you didn't find the right thing the first time, to have enough runway and enough mental capacity to, find the next thing and solve a problem for an audience that you're passionate about, or solve your own pain. We're using no code more, honestly, like internally in terms of team dashboards. We've got our own wiki on Notion. We have client dashboards. We track time off requests and other types of things through Airtable. So it's been really helpful operationally within Cloudburst. And we're starting to extend it into the very earliest stages of prototyping for clients, because it's fun to have working software as opposed to PDFs or things like that, just drawings. I mean, to get things in people's hands. And honestly, our interest here is we would just as soon talk to an entrepreneur who knows the whole landscape. And if no code is an option, great, they've done it or they can do it. But where they're reaching those limitations or they want some help with us, that's a great place for us to take it to that next level, because they found the options that are out there, and we can help them kind of complement them with more custom development that really maybe unlocks the longer term value. So great. Well, I'd say let's jump into it then. And first case study project here is something that I worked on this spring, George Floyd Mural app. And so I had been exploring some of these no-code tools just of my own interest, and had been poking around with a platform called Glide, and working with some photo sharing and map-based apps, because that's interesting to me. So when I found out that Springboard for the Arts was having artists painting murals over plywood in St. Paul to commemorate George Floyd and celebrate his life in response to the tragedy, our family was going to go out and take a look at these. And I thought, I bet I could build an app so we could capture and share these murals. And so I basically set up one Saturday morning and said, I think I can build this app. And as I said down here, it took me about 5 hours. I was able to get the MVP launched in the morning. It's a public web app, which I don't know how many screens in a screen. You can capture that QR code or not to check it out, but users can upload photos to the app. They can add resources, because part of it was you can give money to support organizations and share information about how people can educate themselves about the issues that matter, providing map and detail views, and tied into tweeting new murals. So we'll actually do kind of an under the hood look at the specifics, but it used Glide, Google Sheets, Gmail, and Zapier kind of to tie it all together. So let me take a look. So on this page at georgefloydmurals.glideapp.io, maybe I can get fancy and copy and paste that into the chat even. You can see the list of murals that exists through this app that have been crowdsourced. So I can click in and see the detail of a mural, see the information about it, favorite it, find it on a map. I can see a map of the murals and look at a map view of it. And it was really cool to see, just as the app got released over those first few weeks, as pins started showing up on the map. And then there's also a list of resources here where people can learn about various resources. So again, they're crowdsourced, but I set it up so that people could add a resource of their own. So you could enter that information in here, and that would show up in the app. Similarly with donations, in the early days, there were just a lot of organizations trying to raise awareness about the needs that they had. So I found that I could just put information in and say, again, just basically linking out to their website so that people could actually go donate directly from the app. And also created the possibility for people to add a mural, add a resource, or add a place to donate. So let's take a look a little bit behind the scenes here. Glideapps.com turns spreadsheets into easy to use apps. This is their UI for how you basically go ahead and build. You can start a project with a template that they've got things built for common use cases of directory apps or restaurants or maps or things like that. And then you can build out the pages that you want to have in your application. So in this case, I wanted the feed view. And again, looking into the detail side, I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but like I can switch around what comes at the top, where the link is, what the text is, how it works, what's the source of the image, which Google Sheet is it taking information from. So if we look at kind of what's powering all of this, is this Google Sheet that has all of the murals added, information about the donations, and then contact us and about and resources and other information. But basically everything that's in the app is populated from that spreadsheet. So I'm going to take a chance and say that I want to add a mural and I want to browse that mural. And I think it's in my desktop trash document. This one here. And unfortunately, I don't know the name of the artist in this case. I can give myself attribution as the person who found the photo. And then if I put the address in there, oops, that's not it. Let me grab that address again. Oops. So I put the address in here, and that's where the mapping comes into it. And ideally, I was trying to raise awareness of other artists, but if I just put my email in there, and then I submit this mural, it was sent. Now, if we go back to the home screen, oops, gotta scroll down here, back to the mural list. This is the image that I just uploaded. You can see it's at 4646 East Lake Street. So it's right there in the app as it happens. And that's connected through that you'd see in the murals now, this Google spreadsheet, this new mural at Lake Street, uploaded by me. Same would happen for resources and everything. So just really slick way to add information. You could enter it manually into this database. It would show up in the app. The other piece that I kind of have connected to it is Zapier. And so Alex alluded to that earlier on in terms of a way of connecting these different apps together. But basically I set up Zaps, which basically connect to kind of like if this, then that. When something happens, take this action. So one of these things would be like the new mural email notification. So I connected up that Google Sheet to email, and this is the basic rules that I definitely recommend people explore around. Connect accounts you probably already have of email and Google Sheets or other types of tools. Create a free Zapier account and just try making certain things happen. Get an email when something happens. But I could just decide that when this particular spreadsheet that I have for my George Floyd Mural app in the Murals worksheet gets a new row, send me an email through Gmail because I connected my account, and I can customize that email with fields from the spreadsheet, and it's from me and it's from this, and I can say, hey, a new mural's been added. So I could go out and about during the day and I just be getting emails when new murals are added to the app. I tied in some other things of like tweeting out when murals were listed and stuff like that, but you can do all those kind of connections through Zapier. So that was a pretty quick case study in building an app with Glide. I just wanted to show you real quick, if I go back to the app dashboard, if you want to create an app from a template, there's all kinds of ways that you can just get started with different industry templates and other things that allow you to basically start with an existing project so you don't even have to start from scratch. So I guess it's given me a hard time loading that page, but anyway, the combination of Glide, Google Sheets, Zapier made it possible to go out, take those photos, track them, and start to kind of leave those footprints, and then other people were able to contribute photos. So I guess I'm gonna quit Glide right now and switch back to the presentation to talk about stuff that Alex has been building.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so just a kind of a bit of background about Electrician Path. So Electrician Path is really a hiring marketplace for electricians. So we're like an Indeed, but very focused on just the electrical and solar industry. And when I kind of set out to build this, I really was kind of debating between, should I just get better at programming and try to build this kind of on the flow, or, I was kind of I was familiar with no code, but I never really dove into it too deep. But I was very familiar with it because for those who might be in the no code world, y'all might know of Tara Reid, who's kind of a superstar in the no code space. She was kind of one of the first people I really know to be in it and really build kind of revenue making businesses with no code. So she had always kind of told me like, oh, you should try no code. You can probably build something pretty quickly, especially with like Bubble. You don't have to worry about kind of trying to find a technical co-founder. So me and my friend Adalo were kind of like, you know what, let's go down kind of the no code rabbit hole. Let's see what it leads to. And obviously the more complex a no code tool is, the bigger the learning curve. But it's a much more smaller learning curve than trying to become a great programmer. Because just like a trade, you're continuously, crafting that skill. So yeah, anyways, we were able to build kind of the first MVP in about 2 weeks, but we really had a prototype over a weekend. And the two tools we decided to go with are Webflow and Bubble. And the reason for that is Webflow, I think, really makes it easy to have a full functioning home marketing website, that you can really have your landing pages on. You can really have, you can build a blog and content, which is something that we kind of do. One of our things that we're trying to leverage is kind of SEO. And that's really the thing that I think makes me like Webflow more than WordPress, is Webflow has everything kind of built in versus WordPress, you need all these plugins. So as Electrician Path scales, it's much easier for us to kind of just really focus on the simple SEO stuff and really focus on the content to scale. And yeah, Electrician Path has been built, on the front end completely with Webflow, and on the back end with Electrician Path. To this day, we're still building with no code. As we scale and get bigger, there might come a time where we need to kind of migrate, hire some engineers. But for right now, I think if we can continue to be, a good company that can make revenue, be very profitable, why get off no code if we don't have to? So far, we haven't ran into huge limitations. And one of the things I'll kind of share quickly without going too deep into this, kind of show you kind of the tools we use. So I'm going to try and share my screen, Zach. Let's see if it works. Okay. Cool. All right, cool. I think it's showing, right? Yep. Here we go. Awesome. So yeah, with Webflow, And so we use Webflow for Electrician Path, and we also use it for my family's roofing business. So you see here we have kind of level edge construction, and then we have Electrician Path. And for those who aren't familiar with Webflow, as I mentioned, it's really just a what you see is what you get website builder. So, you know, we have our home pages, you know, we're really selling to electrical contractors. With electricians, we're kind of really selling them on, hey, here's a marketplace that will help you kind of find your next opportunity. We really want to help you kind of, you know, not only become an electrician, but really grow your career here, you know, really make great money. And Electrician Path really makes it easy to just, sorry, not Electrician Path, Webflow really makes it easy to just kind of create these landing pages. You know, you're able to really customize them the way you like, you know, and kind of build like, you know, this dynamic function with them, etc. So we're really big fans of that. You're also able to kind of, you know, optimize it for iPad, you know, landscape view, portrait, etc. So I definitely recommend Webflow for those who are kind of considering like a blog or a website, etc. And yeah, you know, with Webflow, I would say the learning curve with Webflow is small to get started, but it definitely can get advanced. Like, you know, you can build kind of, you know, but if you kind of go to Webflows and you go to kind of their help desk, you know, people can build, like there's a good tutorial on like how to build like Apple's AirPods website, you know, that kind of has like the gliding AirPods with the case opening. And that's really cool that you can do that with Webflow alone. There's a lot of startups that are starting to do that. And yeah, going back to kind of like what Zach said, you know, Webflow allowed us to do this very quickly. And honestly, I think I would have used a tool like Webflow in either way, even if I did build out the product, just because I think from the front end, you know, landing page, marketing page perspective, I do think that what you see is what you get. Builders are getting so good that you don't really need a front end developer from that perspective, more so on, you know, probably the actual product. And if you want to go to the next slide, Zach, and kind of touch on the back end of the actual product. So, you know, with Electrician Path, you know, we've kind of built, and again, we're still an early stage startup, so we're still figuring out a lot of this as we go. But Electrician Path, you know, we're essentially like a marketplace for people to get hired, you know, as electricians, whether you're just starting off as a helper / apprentice or you're a master / journeyman electrician. So there's a lot going on with, you know, our platform, and I'm kind of right here in the sorry. Can you see that I'm on the bubble page, Zach, or no?
Yeah.
Showing up?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I won't go too much into this. There's a few, you know, kind of internal stuff in here that we're going to keep hidden, but this is really what you see when you get bubble, and you get, you know, very similar to Webflow. What you see is what you get. It's definitely much harder to design with bubble than Webflow, I will say, but, you know, you kind of get the hang of it. So, you know, in here, you'll kind of drop your visualization. You might want to put some text here, some icons, some numbers. You have your pages up here, you know, based on kind of what you're doing. So, you know, one of the competitive edges that we have when selling to companies versus just being kind of a job board, because at the end of the day, we're kind of just a job board marketplace, is we really kind of have software for these companies, you know, who use us to really kind of, you know, manage their whole hiring and recruiting process for electricians on us. And we've been able to do this, you know, all with Bubble, me and Adam. Everything that you see here, like all this functionality, you know, if I was to search for jobs, apply for jobs, you know, you would see all this. And, you know, from an individual's perspective, you wouldn't have any idea that this is built with no code. You know, you would think this is just a functioning website that gets the job done, which it does. And then if I was to, you know, apply for this job, I could apply there directly. So Bubble really kind of, you know, going back to like that potential, really unlocks a lot of opportunity, because, you know, something like this, in my opinion, is pretty complex. You know, what I mean by that is, like, there's a lot of functionality going on here. Like, you know, just on the applicant's perspective, you know, if I was an electrician, you know, we have like a resume builder for our electricians to use that was also built with no code. So you literally would just go in here, fill this out, and when you're done, you would have a resume that you could download, but you would also have uploaded to your profile. As I showed, you know, you can find electrical jobs, and then you're able to, oh, there we go. edit your profile, which allows employers to see your public profile. So this is kind of my dummy account that isn't public, so you don't see a whole lot about it, but you would have here kind of, you know, some information about you, you know, any work showcases you want to show off, or some wiring, installation, your licenses, your work history. And that's going to allow employers to see that and be like, oh, Alex is a great electrician, or Alex sucks, you know, whatever they think. Hire them, don't hire them. And then from the employer perspective, you know, that's how we make money. We charge employers is, I'll kind of show you the workflow really quick for electricians. Give me a second. Here we go. So with electrical companies, you know, we give them kind of a branding page. So they get the company summary, benefits. You know, this is really to kind of stand out, kind of like a Glassdoor for electricians. So that electricians can see, oh, you know, here's a great company. Here's where I want to work at. And right here, you know, you see all this kind of, you know, a parent group is really just like something that repeats on a page. So once you get to learn that, you know, you see this and you're kind of like, okay, what is that? But I'll just show you an example of what you're seeing. Give me a second. What you're seeing right there is really a company's profile and information, right? So if you go here, you know, and this is what you would see if you were an electrician. You can be like, okay, you know, let's just go with R Energy Solar, who's kind of hiring for a few positions. Give me a second. My laptop's kind of being slow right now. Got too many applications. So here's just a company, you know, they do plumbing, heating, electrical. So they would be able to edit kind of their summary, you know, what benefits they offer, what are their typical wages, you know, and electricians can write reviews. So going back to all this right here, this shows up blank, you know, on here, but when companies get access to their page, they're able to view, you know, they're able to edit all this, and then electricians can see other electrical companies, other electrician jobs, and they can be like, oh, you know, I want to apply to be a residential solar electrician. And again, you know, if they think it's a great fit, they would just apply to that job. So yeah, I've been kind of just rambling a lot, but that's really just kind of a behind the scenes of, you know, Webflow and Webflow and Bubble. So, you know, that just kind of shows all the possibilities of the things you can build with it. You know, there's been a lot of people who have built, you know, really cool apps with Bubble. You know, Bubble itself is worth checking out. You know, they have really good tutorials. They have like an app of the day we've been showcased as well. You know, and people are building everything, like I said, from marketplaces to, you know, inventory fulfillments, to, you know, even like, you know, blogs. My friend Adam and his brother, they also have one called the Pavala, which covers emerging stores in Ghana. I'll drop a link to that in there. But, you know, they built, you know, it's still early, but they built a very robust, you know, media site, you know, with Bubble, and they're able to, you know, make quick edit. And this is actually probably my favorite thing about no code, if you're not technical, is the fact that you can edit in real time. So if someone was like, yo, this sucks, or hey, Alex, you know, I'm having an issue with, you know, applying to a job, I would be able to go into Bubble, kind of look at the log, see what's messing that up, and fix it on the spot. And I think that's really powerful, versus if you were working with, let's say, you know, a contractor or maybe even a dev shop, you know, like, you know, Zach's sleeping at 2 a.m. I can't just call Zach at 2 a.m. You know, if I'm up, let me see if I can fix this quickly. So I think that's probably my favorite thing about that. But yeah, I'll stop talking. I've been rambling.
Oh, that's awesome, Alex. And I think one of the distinctions that I would say too with maybe this no code space is that if you want to go beyond the classic marketing website where people can actually sign in and create accounts and see custom content, I mean, certainly people might debate, is WordPress no code? And we don't need to get into all those debates, but there have been ways for people to try to create communities on top of traditional websites or whatnot. But I think no code does allow you to get to that next level of functionality of what is this site doing for me? It's not just presenting content, it's allowing me to interact. I have my profile, I can build relationships, I can store information, I can communicate with other members. So there's a whole host of things. And yeah, it just allows you to build something and get it out there, and it allows kind of more micro level successes, I would say, and then they can grow from there. But one of the things I would say too, the flip side of the being able to make quick updates, one of the challenges is, do you have a staging environment? Which basically for staging and development world is, this is where you test it and build it first, and then you decide to deploy that to production where people actually experience it. One of the challenges with no code is like if you make a mistake or you break something, then that's what everybody else experiences right away too. So that's something to pay attention to. Like George Floyd app, I can't experiment around with the UI without changing what it looks like for everybody who's actually using it. So there's things like that. But I will jump in a little bit more into what we're doing. So a little bit more of another tool to take a look at of how we've been using it for our shared success agreement at Cloudburst, as just kind of another example of the way that no code stuff can be used. So the shared success agreement is kind of one of the foundational pillars at Cloudburst that we've developed that basically allows us to invest time in startups for a share of future revenue. So we built a website on Webflow that I'll show you about. It's called this shared success agreement. And we wanted to help people understand and generate agreements that they would use not only with Cloudburst, but with other potential partners. Because we saw the possibility, a lot of people will come to say, I want to hire you for development, but I need to know how much it's going to cost so I can go raise money from someone else. And I think in this community in general, we have a lot of opportunity to help each other. Alex might have the marketing or no code skills that I need, or I might have the legal or finance skills that he needs, but yet we don't have an effective way to invest in each other. So long way of saying this shared success agreement allows people to invest time in exchange for future revenue. And I was doing these by hand. We were figuring it out. We were using it with some clients, but I wanted to give more broad access to this idea. So I built something with a website and a calculator that creates these agreements automatically through Google Docs and emails them out using Webflow, Calconic, G Suite, Airtable, and Zapier. You know, I said 10 hours. It's been refined. I mean, just kind of getting the proof of concept there, it's definitely been refined over time. And there was definitely a learning curve on Webflow. But it's pretty quick. And let me share this other screen then, if that's still working. So the gist of it is that I've got a Webflow website. Why I click back for a second. You know, kind of like what Alex was showing, I can make a landing page and put all these things together, and I could do this myself, which was really satisfying. It's all about this kind of idea of talent funding for startups and connecting people to opportunities without the complexities of equity. But at the core of it is this agreement, which is what I wanted to share, the shared success agreement. And the idea is that people can customize it. And so just to go fairly quickly through it, you're welcome to check out the site if you're curious to explore the idea. But say I was going to do $50,000 worth of a project, and I was going to do it 50% to get paid right now, and 50% I'm going to take a chance on your company. So I'm going to get paid $25,000, and I'm going to defer $25,000 that I may never get paid. But hopefully if I do, and since I'm taking a chance, I'd like to be able to make 3x on that money I may never see. So I'd like to be able to earn up to $75,000 off of this $25,000 I'm not taking now. And so in order for that to happen, I wanted to get 10% or 10% of your revenue of your company. So by the time you've generated $750K in revenue from your company, you will have paid me back $75,000, and we're all good. And I helped you get started for only $25K, so you didn't have to borrow as much on credit cards or do more friends and family. And then I think you're going to pay me back over 5 years based on the growth of your company. So I'm going to get my annualized rate of return at 24.6. So then I can click this button to create the full agreement, enter in some details, which I won't get into right now. But I can show you at the core of that. I did a lot of research around online calculators and how they work. So this is the Calconic tool that I built out the math behind how to build that calculator. And then within Zapier, again, this is kind of the plumbing behind things. I can show you like calculator to draft agreement is another Zap. So now when a new order comes in through Calconic, when you submit that calculator, then it creates a record in Airtable. So this maybe looks a little bit familiar from before, but I'm choosing my right account in which Airtable. This is our project named Nimbus. And then I'm creating a new record that passes the values from the calculator into the Airtable. So as we've kind of talked about Airtable a fair amount, you can see, you know, this is what an Airtable looks like. You know, it's basically a spreadsheet database, different tabs and views that you can get into. Again, I'd sort of recommend creating free accounts on these platforms and see how they work together, especially like Airtable, Zapier, G Suite. I mean, getting into Webflow or Bubble is a lot more of a lift, but just to try some things. When a new agreement is created, it creates a record in this table that pulls in the fields of what the key variables were of that agreement. And then the next step is a zap again that says, okay, now there's a new record in this Airtable. So the first thing was calculator gets submitted. Tell Zapier, Zapier, create a record in Airtable. Okay, Airtable, hey, there's a new record. Great. Now what? Well, create a document from a template in Google Docs. So just to show you, like, this is our SaaS template document where I had to go through and I don't know if curly braces count as code, maybe, but had to put those in the document so that those values could get automatically populated by Zapier. Basically, you can. That's one of the zaps is you can connect information from one of the actions, I guess, can be create a document from a template. So then again, within the details, I choose my account, I choose which event triggers it, and then I can basically set this up to say, create a new document. It has this name, and then fill in the details of the contribution and everything. And that's great. And once it's created that document, it updates the record in Airtable, which actually puts the URL for the document right here. And then what it does is it sends around an actual then agreement that fills in this case, your company, our name, what we agreed upon, what the percentages were as a Google Doc that can be edited and signed. And it also attaches a link to a PDF. So that's the last step with the Airtable is send an email in Gmail. So the basic steps, calculator uses a zap to create a row in Airtable. Row in Airtable uses a zap to create a document. A document gets created, and when it's complete, it goes back and adds that document URL to the record in Airtable. When the document URL gets added, it sends an email from Gmail. Whoops. Again, where I can customize the email that just says, with these details, here's your shared success agreement. Here's a link to it. I added in the drive link, and here's the PDF link, and that just gets sent out. And then I have it connected to Slack, so it Slacks me a message that said, hey, somebody just created a new shared success agreement. And of course, you all would be welcome to try it out at the website and just kind of see how that document flow goes. But yeah, was really interesting for me. Honestly, this is the way that I create those agreements now that we even use at Cloudburst. Saves me time. I just put the numbers in, figure it out, get the agreement in my email. And that was really satisfying again for me to just start building out this page and trying to explain how it works, and then allowing other people. We've had other people downloading this agreement, and that's part of what we want is, hey, if you want to use this in a project you're working on, it doesn't have to be with us. We just think if more people can invest in each other, we're better off. So yeah, looking to see kind of where we're at with any questions, but I think we can jump back into the slides again then, and we'll have some time for Q&A. But yeah, I think the next thing was just to share that we're launching a site we have launched, nocode.mn, using what I would consider a no-code community platform called Mighty Networks. It's a free community where you can meet other no-coders, kind of continue these conversations, learn about tools, share your tips, promote projects, discover events, like presuming we have events in the future sometime. So we're excited about this. That's something that Graveti and Cloudburst are kind of helping host, but it's really meant to be a community where people can connect directly with each other. And that site's live now. So I don't know if you had any more comments on that front, Alex.
No, yeah, I think just to wrap up, you know, a bit about Graveti is, you know, obviously with COVID, we kind of had to adjust. We usually would do kind of more in-person events, you know, whether they were small or kind of had, you know, these fireside chats or panels. And with COVID, everything's kind of up in the air still. Who knows when kind of large gatherings will become, acceptable again. But in a way, the way we've been kind of pivoting is trying to become more of an online community, do more online events, stuff like that. Stuff like today, we're partnering with Cloudburst a lot on, no code, which is, kind of where nocode.mn will be kind of the place to host, projects and just kind of people can jump in, share feedback, notes. But yeah, at Graveti, we're also, we're very big on no code because of the potential it can unlock. It can help people really create wealth, kind of get kickstarted. So we'll be kind of, kicking things off again, for 2021 if everybody wants to help out, sponsors, corporations, etc. But with that said, expect more things about no code, whether it's articles, mini tutorials, and all that will kind of just feed into, leading people to get started and then, hopefully joining the nocode.mn community. But yeah, that's really all I had left. And, we'll be happy to answer any questions, after this.
Yeah, I think it's exciting ways to work to solve your own problems. Like we put in our tagline here, like be your own technical co-founder. I don't know how much that might apply to people here, but let's jump into a little bit of the Q&A side of things. I see a couple things coming through. I was just gonna chat.
I would say I saw Aaron asked about MakerPad. So I actually do have a MakerPad membership. I know Ben for kind of back when he was at Product Hunt. I was following him. He was kind of one of the leaders pushing no code. So I was able to get a pretty good deal on a membership. I don't use it as much as I should, but it's definitely a great resource for those who are kind of new to no code or really want to get more advanced because they have a really helpful community. So it's one of those things where, like, it's like, hey, what should I build this with? Or has anybody, been able to get Bubble to do this or Webflow or any other app? There's usually somebody in that community who can kind of answer that question. It's also a great community to maybe find people who you want to kind of partner up with. Let's say you kind of want somebody who's a little bit more advanced with a certain no-code tool. There's people on there that you can hire for a project. They have great tutorials. So I do think it's worth checking out. I think it really, goes back to like Zach's point. Depends how invested you are with no code. But at the end of the day, it's probably better to just get started with the free accounts, dabble with it. And if you want to go deeper, you can.
I saw, Seth, that you had a question about moderator feature to what I built. And so that was one of the challenges, is that I could have, I think, introduced that workflow where when someone submits something new, it goes into a different spot in an Airtable and it notifies me. And then I have the option to change the status to mark it as approved and then have it go into the app. And I chose to go the route that just put a little disclaimer on there that just said, hey, these, report something if you see it, but these are community sourced things. So there might be something that shouldn't be there. Please let me know. That's one of the other things, like compared to the traditional app store, Apple or Google Play. With no code, they run generally as web apps. It's not in the app store. You can do that through platforms like Adalo, which I guess we didn't talk too much about. And so there's a lot of considerations, and we can continue these conversations kind of in the no code MN community, but around if it needs to be a native app, if you can start with a web app or a progressive web app experience and avoid the app store, avoid their ability to reject you for objectionable content, avoid their commission on the payments that you receive, and be able to ship your updates to users, right away. I think there's going to be a real trend toward these kind of, every company, if it has a website, ultimately it should have an app of some level, which just means some software that's delivering value to the customers beyond being marketing messaging. It's providing value to the business and helping facilitate that relationship. And I think that's kind of like the next wave of apps really is going to be more focused in that realm, to Alex's point, of enabling services, businesses, helping them make more money and benefit from technology. So we're really excited to be in this space. Any other questions or comments with a couple minutes that we have left? We really appreciate people joining in, and we're just kind of curious to hear who's thinking about no code.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, I saw I think it's pronounced Gaji. Correct me if I'm wrong with pronouncing it. But you asked if there's any kind of IP issues or anything like that. I don't believe so. As far as I know, at least with like Webflow, Bubble, not Zapier, Glide, all that kind of, even if you're on a free account, usually it's public. That's kind of the only thing they own. That you have a public, Bubble or Webflow domain and branding, but it's still yours. But if you have a paid account, whatever you built is yours. A lot of them allow you to kind of download the code. I saw somebody earlier. If you build it, on no code, can you kind of just hire somebody to take it off? I think that is one of the code right now. I know I have a friend named David Head who's actually working on a startup to kind of help migrate that. How do you go from no code to code? I do think that's actually a good issue to have if you're scaling a no code project. You need to either get more technical with it or you need to hire somebody. But yeah, basically at the end of the day, if you're, I think no code at minimum allows you to do that. You can build a proof of concept, get a prototype, get an MVP, maybe even like a version 1, version 2, get some revenue. And then from there, you can kind of decide, hey, do I continue building with no code, or is it time to bring in somebody like Cloudburst or somebody in the team that can kind of, migrate off no code, which, there is some issues here and there. I'm sure if one day we get off Electrician Path with no code, we're definitely going to have kind of like, just like with any kind of update, there's going to be kind of some issues, but, there's definitely been a lot of teams who have done that.
Yeah, I would say to echo that, like, it just go far enough to just where you can see what the limitations are and see if those are really things that stop you from getting sales right now. Because I've talked with enough founders to know that so often they're trying to build something so big and so awesome that's going to take so long and cost so much money that you can get yourself caught up. At least no code, you can experiment. If you want to solve problems for electricians and you think it starts this way, but ultimately they really want this other thing, at least if you have been developing relationships and building your skills, you might have the chance to pivot to where the market actually is, as opposed to spending all of whatever money you might have to build the one thing you think they want. And if it's not right, you're out of luck. We just want to help more people build sustainable tech-powered companies here in the Twin Cities. So excited about this partnership and the chance to work with Alex on it. So really appreciate everybody being here, spending a part of the day sharing a screen. We do have a Cloudburst booth in the expo, so if you want to stop by and chat about anything else, let me know. Any other comments, Alex, before we?
No, I mean, like I said, this is not the end of this. Zack and I, with Graveti and Cloudburst, we're going to continue to kind of, really push, no code, resources, tutorials, projects, all that. I think no code is still in the very early days, so you're just going to see more and more of it. So, we're going to be here to kind of help out with that. I'm pretty accessible via email. It's just Alex at whatever company you email me at .com or on Twitter. But yeah, this was fun, and I look forward to seeing kind of what the community builds. I'm sure people are going to have a ton of projects, built pretty soon.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
That's it for me.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to keeping in touch.
All right. See ya.
See ya.